Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial wherein we'll be talking about the two most important interfaces, or you can say one of the most important topic of collections in Java, the comparable and comparator interfaces. It is very important in context of interview questions because not only freshers but also experienced guys are asked questions over collections, comparable and comparator interface. Uh, Quite often or not, interviewer asked while telephonic round to freshers the difference between comparable and comparator interface, what was need of creating comparable and comparator interface, when we can use what. No, these are some questions which are asked over telephonic rounds. Uh, while we can also be asked to code down some sorting algorithms uh, while facing interviews, the technical interviews. Okay, so this is very important topic in Java. Uh, not only for interviews, of course, but also while in context of development, when we do some development stuffs, we are quite often or not in a position, we find ourselves in a position wherein we need to sort objects, wherein we need to compare objects, and this is what which will help us in future, the comparable and comparator interface. Okay, so before explaining anything about comparable and comparator interface, the differences, the need, what came first, and all, I'll show you some code wherein I have created some elements into an array and then I've tried sorting them. Okay, so I'll show you down some code. Is it this code? I think yes. This is the code. Okay. Uh, yes, this is the code. A class and I've created certain. I've created a couple of array. Uh, One array is wherein I've stored some integral elements, and then in another array I've stored some string type elements, and then of course again string it is, and then no some objects of my class. Okay, so let us see one by one and I'll explain you why I've done this. Okay, so I've written an array of integers. Everybody is acquainted with this method sort, the most popular method of Java, and I think this is the best friend of Java developers, because this just decreases our task so very badly that we cannot even think of proceeding forward without sort method. So sort method, what actually sort method does is it will sort the element stored in the array, or to sort elements stored in collections in their natural order. Okay, so I've done arrays dot sort and passed that array wherein I've stored some integral elements. Okay, and after that I have just printed elements of those array. Similarly, I have done this task for a string type array. I have stored some strings into this array, try sorting those arrays, and then I have printed. Again, this is string. I don't know why I have repeated this, but this is again a string. Okay, and then I have created some object of my class, some class employee. Let us see where it is employee. Okay, I have created some objects of this class and then store those objects into array. Okay, array of employee class. uh, here this is the storage of those objects into this array, and then the same task again repeated. I've done sort method, called sort method, and then just printed those objects. Okay, as soon as I print this code, I think many of you have guessed already that what will be the output. Of course, these arrays will sort elements in their natural order, but as soon as the code comes here or the execution flow comes here, uh, it will throw a runtime exception, which is called probably the class cast exception, which will be thrown here. And this is quite understandable. So first of all, let me show you the output. Okay, here we go. Okay, so okay, this is the integral array, and these elements are stored in the natural order of increment. Then I have sorted string type array, and again the output is very clear: A, H, I, K, S, V, and all. It is very important to let my viewers understand that strings are always sorted. What is the natural way of sorting a string? We know a string. Sorry, we know that an integer can be sorted in increasing order, and that is the natural ordering. And strings are always ordered naturally, lexicographically. I think many of you are aware of this word, but if anyone is not, for them, let me explain what is this lexicographically means. Everybody has seen dictionary, okay? So the arrangement of words in a dictionary is lexicographical arrangement, okay? So I think it will be quite clear to you. So these strings are ordered in this lexicographical manner, okay? And now it is clear to me why I have taken these two array of strings. In one array I have just passed a string with single character, and then in another array I have passed strings with multiple characters to show you the lexicographical arrangement of string, okay? And in next I have taken objects of my own class, I mean custom objects. So as soon as the execution tries to sort these elements, these objects, it fails, and the output is a class cast exception saying that the employee class cannot be cast to comparable java.lang.comparable. Okay, that means that these objects cannot be compared, right? These objects cannot be compared simply. So this is a situation wherein our developers fail to compare their custom objects, they did in case of integer, they did in case of strings. In that case, now this is a situation wherein we need to think, how can we compare these objects? How can we sort these objects? Okay, so for this purpose, we have two interfaces in Java. We have comparable and comparator interface. Okay, so comparable and comparator interface actually sorts some objects. Okay, the prime purpose of these interfaces is to sort objects on the basis of their natural order or on the basis of user's will. Can be custom sorting as well. Okay, so now we need to go through this comparable and comparator interface in detail. Sorry. Comparable interface and these two interfaces comes from I'll show you these two interfaces will. Okay, if you do this, you can see these two interfaces comes from java.lang.comparable. That means comparable interface comes from java.language package, and comparator interface comes from java.util package. That means comparable interface was introduced right in every classes, because java.lang package is by default imported by all the classes in Java. But if we need to compare two objects on the basis of our will, on the basis of custom sorting, we need to import java.util package so that we could implement comparator interface, because comparator interface compares two objects in different ways. It can be custom sorting, but comparable interface But this interface, comparable interface, comes from java.lang package. By default, this is imported. This is imported to your class, this package, and eventually this interface can be directly, you can implement this interface to your class and use this. There is only one method in this interface which is compared to. This method actually does that trick. You can see the return type of compared to. It is very interesting. This is int. Actually, compared to method returns three values of int. It can be 1, it can be 0, it can be -1. We can see compared to method accepts one argument, and this argument is an object. Okay, we can say this object is of object class, or this can be an object of the class that you need to compare the object of. Okay, so let us see its implementation in detail. I'll show you a simple example wherein I have taken okay, let us see this example. I have taken a class and I have implemented it. I have implemented comparable interface with this class. Now this is what we were talking about in comparable class. In comparable interface definition, if we come again, we can find this T. Okay, now this is, I have passed cricketer here. Okay, so when we will override compare to method, because every interface has method which is only prototype declared, we need to define those methods by the class where these interfaces are implemented. Okay, so I have implemented comparable interface by my class cricketers, so we need to override compare to method in our class. This is mandatory. That is why interfaces are called or said to be have full abstraction in Java. Okay, because every method, each and every method in interfaces are prototype declared, and we need to declare those methods in our implementing class. Okay, so I have passed now an object of cricketer as an argument to this compare to method. Okay, and then this code, as I said, compare to method returns three values of an integer. It can be 1, it can be 0, it can be -1. Okay, so what is this two values, or how does these three values come from? Let us see the code again. I have created a class, I have created some attributes of this class, and then a parameterized constructor wherein I have initialized these attributes, then getters and setters. Pretty simple code, guys. Okay, and then I have just compared the wickets and the values of wickets for each objects. Okay, if these two values are same, the code is very simple. I need not to explain this, but anyways, if these two values are same, it will return 0. If value is greater than the value of wickets, it return 1, and eventually it will return -1. Okay, so it returns three values. It can be 1, it can be 0, it can be -1, depending upon the situation, the three situation. Okay, and then I must have created another class wherein I have tried sorting these cricketer objects. So I must have created another class. Okay, I think this is the class, right? This is the class. Another class main method, and then the couple of objects of cricketer class, the class wherein I have implemented comparable interface. I stored these objects into array list. Okay, and passed the object of this array list to sort method. Again, this is very popular method in Java. Okay, for each loop, and then I tried printing those objects. Let us quickly run this code and see what is the output. Okay, so here we go. These cricketers are actually sorted on the basis of wickets, I guess. Yes, this is the value of wicket, because in these three values, this is the only thing which is in its increasing order is wickets. We can see a haphazard manner of number of runs scored by the cricketers, and